Jack Howard woke up early on Saturday morning. The sun had not yet risen over the mountains of Idaho. He packed his camping gear into his old blue truck and drove away from his small house. Jack worked as a firefighter in town, but on his days off, he liked to be alone in nature. 3 days of peace and quiet, Jack said to himself as he turned onto the dirt road that led deep into the forest. His phone would not work there. No one would bother him. Just the way he liked it. Jack was not like most people in his town. He lived alone and kept to himself. The only place besides work where people saw him often was at the wildlife center. Jack volunteered there twice a week, working with the rescued reptiles. He had a way with them that amazed everyone. It's like they understand him, his boss at the center often said. Jack can calm down even the most angry snake or lizard. Jack parked his truck at the end of the road and put on his backpack. He planned to hike 5 miles to his favorite camping spot near a small lake. The morning air felt cool on his face as he walked along the narrow trail. By noon, Jack had set up his tent and built a small fire pit. He sat on a fallen tree and ate a sandwich, looking out at the clear blue lake. Birds sang in the trees. Deer and her fawn drank water at the edge of the lake. Jack felt at peace. As the sun began to set, Jack built a small fire. The orange flames danced in the growing darkness. He did not notice the strange lights that appeared in the sky above him, not until a blue beam suddenly shot down from above, surrounding him in bright light. What the? Jack jumped to his feet. His body felt strange, like it was becoming lighter. The ground fell away beneath him. His campsite grew smaller and smaller below. Jack tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then everything went black. When Jack opened his eyes, he found himself in a small room with white walls. The floor and ceiling glowed with a soft light. There was no door that he could see. His camping clothes were gone, replaced by a simple gray outfit that felt like paper. "Hello?" Jack called out. His voice sounded strange in the small space. "Is anyone there?" "What is happening?" One of the walls suddenly became clear like glass. On the other side stood 3 tall creatures. They looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in hard, shiny shells. They had large eyes that seemed to be made up of many smaller eyes. Long antennas moved on top of their heads. Jack backed away until he hit the wall behind him. "This isn't real," he whispered. "I'm dreaming." "I have to be dreaming." The insect creatures watched him. One of them held up a small device. A voice came from it, but the words made no sense to Jack. The sounds were like clicks and whistles. "I don't understand," Jack said. He tried to keep his voice steady. "Who are you? What do you want with me?" The tallest creature stepped closer to the clear wall. Its antennas moved faster. It spoke into the device again, and this time Jack heard words he could understand, though the voice sounded flat and strange. "Human specimen captured successfully. Male, adult, appears to be in good health, showing signs of fear, as expected." Jack realized they were talking about him, not to him. "I'm not a specimen, I'm a person. My name is Jack Howard. I'm a firefighter from Pine Valley, Idaho. People will look for me." The creatures did not seem to care what he said. The tall one, who seemed to be the leader, continued speaking. Subject: appears agitated but stable. Vital signs within normal range for the species. Prepare it for transfer to Containment Zone Delta. Transfer? What are you talking about? Where are you taking me? Jack pressed his hands against the clear wall. "Please, just tell me what's happening." The leader looked at Jack for a long moment. Then it pressed something on the control panel in front of it. "We are the Zarkonian Science Vessel 12. You have been selected for an important research project. Your planet is of great interest to our scientists. You should feel honored." "Honored? You kidnapped me." Jack hit the wall with his fist, but it did not even make a sound. "I don't want to be part of any research." "Take me back home now." The leader made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is not possible. The research must continue." "You will. Help us understand how your species responds to certain situations." Jack felt cold fear run through his body. "What kind of situations? You will see soon enough." We have prepared a special environment for you. You will not be alone." Before Jack could ask more questions, a strange mist began to fill his room. It had a sweet smell that made his head feel light. "No, wait, Jack tried to hold his breath, but it was too late. His legs felt weak. He slid down the wall to the floor. The room began to spin around him. The last thing he saw was the leader Zarkonian watching him through the clear wall. Its antennas moved, slowly now, as if it was pleased. "Sedation successful," the flat voice said. "Prepare for transfer to the dragon enclosure. This will be a most interesting experiment." Jack tried to speak, to ask what they meant by dragon enclosure, but no words came out. The darkness closed in around him again. His last thought was that no one would ever believe what had happened to him if he lived long enough to tell. Anyone? Then everything went black once more. Jack dreamed of flying, of great winged shapes moving through dark clouds, of eyes watching him, of fire and scales and ancient power. He did not know that soon these dreams would become his new reality, that he would wake up in a place where creatures from Earth's oldest myths lived and breathed, that his life as a simple firefighter from Idaho was over, and he did not know that he was about to surprise his alien captors in ways they could never have predicted. Jack opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt. His mouth felt dry. For a moment he thought he was back at his campsite, waking up after a bad dream. But the sky above him did not look right. It was purple, not blue, and the clouds moved too fast. He sat up and looked around. He was not in the forest anymore. He was in a huge open space that looked like a zoo exhibit. There were rocks and small trees and patches of strange blue grass. A small stream flowed nearby. The air felt warm and smelled like cinnamon. "Where am I?" Jack whispered. Then he remembered the insect aliens, the Zarkonians. They had taken him from Earth. This must be their zoo. Jack stood up on shaky legs. His gray outfit had been replaced with loose brown pants and a long-sleeved shirt. He wore soft boots that fit him well. He wondered how the aliens had changed his clothes while he was asleep. A low rumble made Jack freeze. The sound came from behind a large pile of rocks. Something was hiding there. "Something big? Hello?" Jack called out. His voice shook a little. "Is someone there?" The rumble came again, louder this time. Jack took a step back. Then he saw it. A head appeared from behind the rocks, a head bigger than his whole body. It had scales that shined like black glass in the strange light. 2 horns curved back from above its eyes. Those eyes, yellow with black slits, stared right at Jack. "No way," Jack whispered. "No way." The creature moved out from behind the rocks. Its body was massive, with 4 powerful legs and a long tail. 2 huge wings were folded against its sides. It looked exactly like the dragons from storybooks, only real and alive and staring at Jack like he might be its next meal. Jack's back hit something solid. He had backed up against a wall without knowing it. The wall felt like glass. He turned around and saw that part of the wall was clear like a window. On the other side, the Zarkonians watched him. The leader, the one who had spoken to Jack before, stood in front. "The human has awakened," the leader said. Its voice came through some kind of speaker. "Now we will see how it reacts to the dragons of Craxes Prime." "Dragons?" Jack turned back to look at the black creature. "That's a real dragon." As if to answer him, the dragon opened its mouth. Instead of fire, it let out a deep roar that shook the ground. Jack covered his ears. "The dragons have been very difficult to study," the leader continued, talking to the other Zarkonians, not to Jack. "They refuse to eat in captivity. They attack our scientists. Many have died from stress. But our research shows they might behave differently with a natural enemy present." Jack looked at the leader. "Enemy? You think I'm their enemy?" "In human stories, dragons are monsters to be killed by heroes. Humans have destroyed many species on their world. The dragons will see you as a threat. Their natural instinct should return." Jack looked back at the black dragon. It had not moved closer, but it watched him with those yellow eyes. Then Jack saw movement from the corner of his eye. Another dragon appeared from behind a different rock pile. This one was smaller, with scales the color of copper. It had a row of sharp spines down its back. It made a clicking sound with its teeth when it saw Jack. "There are more of them?" Jack asked. "7 in total," the leader replied. "A small family group. Now we will observe how they hunt you." Jack felt his heart beat faster. The aliens expected the dragons to attack him, to eat him. This was not a zoo, it was a fighting pit. "This is crazy," Jack shouted at the aliens. "I can't fight dragons, they'll kill me." The Zarkonians did not answer. They just watched with their many-faceted eyes. More dragons appeared. A green one that blended with the strange plants. A red one with scales that seemed to glow like embers. A blue one, smaller than the others, that moved with quick, nervous steps. A white one with scales like pearls. And finally the smallest dragon with light purple scales, about the size of a large dog. 7 dragons, all looking at Jack. They moved into a circle around him, with the smallest one in the center of their group. Jack knew he had to do something. Running would not help, there was nowhere to go. Fighting was impossible. The black dragon alone could crush him with 1 foot. But maybe, just maybe, there was another way. Jack thought about his work at the wildlife center. How he handled scared animals, how he helped them trust him. Could he do the same with these dragons? Slowly, Jack sat down on the ground. He made himself small. He kept his head down, not looking directly at any of the dragons. These were signs that he was not a threat. It worked with angry lizards. Maybe it would work with dragons too. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jack said in a soft, low voice. "I'm a prisoner here, just like you are." The dragons did not move closer, but they did not attack either. They seemed confused by Jack's behavior. The black one tilted its head like it was trying to understand. Behind the glass wall, the Zarkonians clicked their mandibles. "This is unexpected," the leader said. "The human is not showing fear. It is not running or fighting." "Perhaps it is." In shock, another alien suggested. "No, its vital signs are calm. It is deliberately making itself appear non-threatening." "Fascinating." Jack kept still. Minutes passed. Slowly, the dragons relaxed a little. The smallest one, the purple dragon, took a step forward, curious. The black dragon made a rumbling sound that seemed like a warning. The purple dragon stopped. "That's okay," Jack said softly. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but I won't hurt you." The purple dragon looked at Jack with eyes that were bright green, unlike the yellow eyes of the others. It made a small chirping sound. "I think you're just a baby," Jack whispered. "And they're protecting you." Jack realized that the dragons were not planning to attack him. They were protecting their smallest member from him. They thought he was dangerous. When the Zarkonians saw that no fight was going to happen, they turned off the speaker. Jack could not hear what they were saying anymore, but they looked upset. This was not the show they had expected. As the alien. Day went on. Jack stayed sitting in the same spot. The dragons kept their distance, but they stopped circling him. They went back to their rock piles or lay in the patches of blue grass. When food came through slots in the walls, some kind of brown paste for Jack and large pieces of meat for the dragons, Jack did not rush to get his. He waited until all the dragons had taken their food. Only then did he slowly walk to get his own. The purple baby dragon watched him with those bright green eyes. It seemed more curious than afraid now. That night, Jack slept on the ground near the stream. He used his arm as a pillow. The ground was hard, but at least he was alive. The dragons had not attacked him. "Tomorrow," he whispered to himself, "I'll try to make friends." What Jack did not know was that the dragons were already talking about him. Not with words, but with thoughts that moved between their minds. They had never met a creature like Jack before. A creature that did not attack or run away. A creature that showed respect, and most surprising of all, a creature whose mind they could almost touch with their own. 3 days passed in the strange enclosure. Jack had settled into a routine. Each morning he would wake up and wash in the stream. The water was warm and had a sweet taste. Then he would sit quietly as the dragons woke up one by one. Jack had given them all names in his mind. The big black dragon was Midnight. The copper one was Penny. The green one was Moss. The red dragon was Ember. The blue one was Sky. The white one was Pearl, and the small purple one, his favorite, was Violet. At first, the dragons kept their distance. They watched Jack carefully, especially when he moved around. But they did not attack him. On the second day, Jack had tried something new. When the food came through the wall slots, he noticed that Violet's meat had landed on a high rock ledge, too far for the small dragon to reach. Had walked slowly to the meat, picked it up, and placed it on the ground where Violet could reach it. Then he backed away. Violet had looked at Jack with those bright green eyes for a long time before eating the meat. Now, on the fourth day, Jack sat by the stream. The fake purple sky above was changing to orange like a sunset. He was thinking about Earth, about his house and his job and his quiet life. Would anyone be looking for him? Would they ever find him? A small noise made Jack look up. Violet stood a few feet away, watching him. This was the closest any of the dragons had come to Jack by choice. "Hello there," Jack said softly. "Are you getting braver?" Violet made a chirping sound, like a bird, but deeper. The small dragon took another step closer. "It's okay," Jack said. "I won't hurt you." Violet was now close enough that Jack could see the tiny scales that covered the dragon's body. They looked smooth like polished stones. Violet lowered his head. Jack had decided the small dragon was a male and sniffed at Jack's boot. Behind the glass wall, the Zarkonians were watching with great interest. Jack could see them pointing and making notes. They had not spoken to him since that first day. "They're surprised, aren't they?" Jack said to Violet. "They thought you would eat me, or I would try to hurt you. But we're smarter than they think." Violet made the chirping sound again. Then, to Jack's surprise, the small dragon sat down on the ground near him, not touching, but close, very close. "Well, look at that," Jack said with a smile. "I think we just became friends." Later that day, when the food came, Jack noticed something new. The meat pieces for the dragons were smaller than before, and there were fewer of them. The dragons seemed upset. Midnight roared at the glass wall, but the Zarkonians just watched and made notes. "They're testing us," Jack said aloud. "They want to see what happens when there's not enough food." Jack looked at his own food, the same brown paste as always. There was plenty of it. He picked up his bowl and walked slowly toward Violet, who had not gotten any meat. The other dragons watched carefully. Midnight growled a warning, but Jack kept his movements slow and calm. He put his bowl down in front of Violet. "Here," he sighed. "You can have mine. I'm not that hungry anyway." Violet looked at the paste, then at Jack. The small dragon sniffed the food, then licked it. His face scrunched up in what looked like disgust, and Jack couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, it's pretty bad," he admitted, "but it's better than nothing." After a moment, Violet began to eat the paste. When he finished, he looked at Jack and made a new sound, like a soft purr. Then, to Jack's amazement, Violet moved closer and touched his head to Jack's knee. "You're welcome," Jack said, fighting the urge to pet the dragon. That might be too much too soon. That night, something even more amazing happened. Jack had made a small nest of bluegrass to sleep on near the stream. As he was settling down, he heard soft footsteps. Violet appeared out of the darkness and walked right up to Jack. "Hey there," Jack said. "What do you want?" Violet made the purring sound again. Then, to Jack's complete shock, the small dragon curled up next to Jack, pressing his warm body against Jack's side. "Okay then," Jack whispered. "I guess we're sleeping buddies now." In the morning, Jack woke up to find not just Violet, but also Pearl, the white dragon, sleeping nearby. The other dragons were still keeping their distance, but they were watching with what seemed like curiosity rather than fear or anger. When Jack went to wash in the stream, Violet followed him like a puppy. The small dragon seemed fascinated by everything Jack did. When Jack splashed water on his face, Violet tried to do the same, dipping his snout in the water and snorting when it went up his nose. Jack laughed, and for the first time since being captured, he felt something like happiness. Behind the glass, the Zarkonians were not happy. Jack could see them arguing, their mandibles clicking rapidly. This was not what they had expected to happen. Later that day, Jack noticed Penny, the copper dragon, lying very still. She seemed sick. Her breathing was shallow and her eyes were half closed. The other dragons gathered around her, making soft sounds. "What's wrong with her?" Jack asked, though he knew the dragons couldn't answer, or so he thought as Jack looked. At Penny, he felt a strange feeling in his head, like a gentle pressure pushing against his mind. Then, very faintly, he heard not heard but felt a word. "Thirsty." Jack blinked in surprise. Had he imagined it? He looked at Violet, who was staring at him with those bright green eyes. Did you just talk to me?" Jack whispered. The pressure came again, stronger this time. "Penny Thirsty Bad." Jack looked at the stream. Could there be something wrong with the water? The Zarkonians might be testing them. Again, seeing how they reacted to sickness, he walked to Penny slowly. The other dragons moved aside, letting him approach. Even Midnight, who still seemed wary of Jack, did not try to stop him. Jack knelt beside the sick dragon. "You need clean water," he said softly. He took off his boot and looked at it. It might work as a container. He walked to a corner of the enclosure where rain, or whatever passed for rain in this place, had formed a small puddle away from the stream. He filled his boot with the clean water and carried it back to Penny. "Here," he said, placing the boot near her mouth. "Try this instead." Penny opened her eyes slowly. She looked at Jack, then at the water. With great effort, she lifted her head and drank double quota. "Good," came the faint feeling in Jack's mind. "Thank you?" Jack sat back on his heels, amazed. "You can talk to me," he said. "You're talking in my head." Violet pressed against Jack's side, and the feeling came stronger now. "Yes, we speak. With minds, not doors, hard dooth. Different, but you hear now." Jack looked at all the dragons who were watching him closely. "I can hear you," he said. "Not perfectly, but I can hear you." Behind the glass wall, the Zarkonians had gone very still. They were staring at Jack with their many-faceted eyes. The leader stepped forward and touched something on the control panel. "What is happening?" The leader's voice came through the speaker. "What are you doing with the dragons?" Jack stood up and faced the glass. "I'm helping them," he said. "Which is more than you're doing. You're making them sick to see what I'll do." The leader's antennas twitched. "How did you know the copper one was sick? How did you know to get water from the rain pool?" Jack almost told them about the mind speaking, but then he stopped himself. That was a secret, something the Zarkonians didn't know about the dragons, and Jack planned to keep it that way. "I work with reptiles on Earth," he said instead. "I know when they're sick, and I know bad water when I see it." The leader stared at Jack for a long time. Then it turned off the speaker without another word. "They're worried," came the thought from one of the dragons. Midnight, Jack realized. "They don't understand." "Good," Jack thought back, hoping they could hear him as well. "Let's keep them guessing." A week had passed since Jack discovered he could hear the dragons' thoughts. Each day, the connection grew stronger. Now Jack could speak back to them with his mind, and they could understand him. It was like learning a new language, but without words. The dragons had told Jack many things. They were not animals. They were a smart species from a planet called Craxes. They built cities and mountains and used tools. They had science and art. The Zarkonians had taken them, just like they had taken Jack. Why can't the Zarkonians hear? "You?" Jack asked one night as all the dragons rested near him. Now they all slept close to Jack, not just Violet. "Our minds." "Different shapes?" came Midnight's thoughts. "Insect minds? Cannot connect. Only minds like yours hear us." "So, no one has heard you until now? That's why they think you're just animals?" "Yes," Ember thought sadly. "Many have tried to speak. No one dares." Jack felt angry. The Zarkonians had been treating these smart beings like zoo animals, running tests on them, making them sick, expecting them to fight. "We need to escape," Jack thought to the dragons. "We need to get out of here and go home." "How?" Sky asked. "Walls strong, guards many." Jack didn't have an answer yet, but he knew they had to try. If they stayed, the Zarkonians would keep running tests until something bad happened. The next morning, The Zarkonians did something new. A part of the wall slid open, and 3 of them walked into the enclosure. They wore hard suits that covered their bodies. They carried long sticks that sparked with blue light at the tips. "What do they want?" Jack asked Midnight. "Not good," the big dragon replied. "They take ... for tests." "Bad tests. Pain." The Zarkonians moved toward Violet. The small purple dragon backed away, scared. The aliens raised their sticks. Without thinking, Jack ran forward. He stood in front of Violet. "Leave him alone!" He shouted. The Zarkonians stopped. The leader was one of them. It spoke through a device on its suit. "Move aside, human." "This does not concern you." "Yes, it does," Jack said. "I won't let you." "Hurt him." The leader's antennas twitched. "Interesting. You have formed an attachment to the specimen." This was not expected. "He's not a specimen. None of them are. They're smart beings with their own lives. You have no right to keep them here or hurt them." The leader made a sound like laughter. "Rights? We study all life forms? That is our purpose. Step aside or we will move you." Jack didn't move. "No," the leader nodded to the others. One of them stepped forward with its stick raised. But before it could touch Jack, something amazing happened. All 7 dragons moved at once. They formed a circle around Jack and Violet. Midnight stood tallest, his black scales shining. Ember scales glowed red like fire. Moss seemed to grow larger. Sky spread his wings wide. Pearl's white scales flashed bright. Penny showed her sharp teeth. The Zarkonians backed away. They had never seen the dragons act together like this. "What is happening?" the leader asked. "Why are they protecting the human?" Jack smiled. "Maybe they're smarter than you think." The Zarkonians left quickly, the wall sliding shut behind them. Behind the glass, Jack could see many of them talking fast, their antennas moving wildly. "Thank you," Jack said to the dragons. "We protect ... our friend," Midnight thought back. The other dragons made sounds of agreement. That night, as the fake stars appeared in the fake sky of their prison, Jack sat with the dragons and they made a plan. "I need to know more about this ship," Jack thought to them. "Where are we? How do we get out? Where are the exits?" "We help," Sky offered. "We see things ... you cannot see." Jack learned that the dragons had better senses than humans. They could smell things through walls. They could feel tiny changes in the air that told them about the shape of the ship. They could see colors Jack couldn't see. "Show me," Jack said. The dragons took turns sending pictures into Jack's mind. It was hard at first. The images were strange, with colors Jack had never seen before. But slowly he began to understand. He saw the shape of the ship in his mind. He saw where their prison was located. He saw the paths to the escape pods. There, Midnight showed him. Small ships. At bottom level, used for ... leaving big ship. "Escape pods," Jack said. "If we could reach those, we could get away." "How?" Penny asked. "Doors locked? Guards many?" Jack thought about it. Then he remembered something from his 3rd day in the prison. The Zarkonians hate loud noises. When Midnight roared, they all backed away and covered their heads. "Yes," Pearl confirmed. "Our roars hurt them, but walls block sound. What if all of you roared together? As loud as you can? Maybe it would break the glass." The dragons looked at each other. Ember sent a thought. "We can do more than roar. We can sing." "Sing?" Jack was confused. "Special sound," Midnight explained. "Very high, very ... powerful. We use ... to break rocks ... it croaks. At home, find gems." "Like how some singers can break glass with their voice?" Jack asked. "Yes, but much stronger. We not use here. Because hurts us too. Need ... to cover ears." Jack grinned. "I can cover my ears. Can you teach me which sounds break which things?" For the next 2 days, the dragons taught Jack about their special singing. Each dragon could make a different sound. Together, they could break many things. Jack also learned more about the ship from the dragon's senses. He learned when the guards changed. He learned when the food came. He learned where the power lines ran in the walls, the Zarkonians. watched all this with growing concern. They could see Jack and the dragons spending time together, but they couldn't hear their thoughts. They didn't know what was being planned. On the third day, the leader came to the glass wall again. The speaker turned on. "Human," the leader said, "we wish to study your connection with the dragons. You will be removed for testing tomorrow." Jack looked at the leader calmly. "My name is Jack, not human, and I don't think that's going to happen." The leader's antennas twitched in what Jack now knew was anger. "You do not have a choice. Prepare yourself." When the speaker turned off, Jack looked at his dragon friends. "We need to move our plan forward. We're escaping tonight." "Ready, midnight." Thought, and the other dragons agreed. As the fake night fell in their prison, Jack and the dragons moved to positions around the enclosure. Jack took off his shirt and tore it into strips. "Remember," he thought to them, "wait for my signal. Then sing at the glass wall, right where I showed you. The one spot where the power lines meet." "We remember," they all thought back. Jack looked at his friends one last time. 7 dragons that he now cared for deeply. 7 beings from another world who had become his family in this strange place. "Let's go home," he said, and put the cloth strips in his ears. Jack stood in front of the glass wall, facing the spot where the power lines met. The cloth strips from his shirt were stuffed tightly in his ears. The dragons were in position behind him, waiting for his signal, the fake night in their prison. It was dark, but Jack could still see the Zarkonians behind the glass. Only 2 guards watched now. Most of the aliens had gone to sleep or to other parts of the ship. Perfect timing, Jack thought to the dragons. "Are you ready?" 7 thoughts came back as one. "Ready?" Jack took a deep breath and raised his hand. Then he dropped it quickly. "Now!" The dragons opened their mouths at the same time. At first, Jack heard nothing. Then a high sound began to grow. It started low, then got higher and higher until Jack could barely hear it, even with his ears covered. The sound was so high that it made his teeth hurt. The glass wall began to shake. The 2 Zarkonian guards jumped up in alarm. They hit buttons on their control panels. Red lights began to flash. But it was too late. The glass wall cracked, then broke into 1,000 pieces. The sound of the dragons singing stopped. "Run!" Jack shouted, pulling the cloth from his ears. The dragons leaped forward through the broken wall. Jack ran with them. The 2 guards tried to stop them, but Midnight and Ember knocked them down with their tails. "Which way?" Jack asked as they entered a long hallway. "Left," Penny thought to him. "Down to lower level." The group ran down the hallway. More Zarkonians appeared, but they backed away when they saw 7 dragons running toward them. Alarms rang throughout the ship. They came to a door that wouldn't open. "Sing again," Jack told Sky and Pearl. The 2 dragons sang their high notes. The door broke apart. They ran through. Down they went, level after level. The dragons used their special singing to break doors and walls. Jack used what he had learned about the ship to guide them toward the escape pods. "Almost there," Jack said as they reached the lowest level. "The pods should be just ahead." But when they turned the last corner, they found 20 Zarkonians waiting. The aliens wore protective suits and carried the electric sticks. The leader stood in front. "Stop," the leader commanded. "You cannot escape. The ship is in deep space. There is nowhere to go." Jack looked at the dragons. They were tired from all the singing. "One more time," he thought to them. "All together." The dragons nodded. Jack covered his ears again. The 7 dragons sang together, louder than before. The sound was so powerful that Jack felt it in his bones. The Zarkonians dropped their sticks and fell to the floor, their hands trying to cover the sides of their heads. The wall behind them cracked and broke open. Beyond it was a room with small ships, the escape pods. "Go!" Jack shouted. They ran past the fallen Zarkonians into the pod room. Each pod was small, meant for only 1 or 2 Zarkonians. "We need a bigger one," Jack said, looking around. "There," Moss thought, pointing with his wing to a larger pod in the corner. "That one." They ran to it. The door slid open when Jack pressed a button. Inside was a small control room and a larger space in back. "Everyone in," Jack said. The dragons climbed into the pod. It was tight, but they all fit. Jack was the last to enter. As he was about to close the door, he felt something grab his leg. The leader Zarkonian had followed them. It held Jack's leg with its strange hands. "You ... Take them," the leader said, its voice weak from the pain of the dragon's singing. "They are ... valuable specimens." Jack tried to pull away, but the leader was strong. Then he felt something warm against his back. Violet had come to help. The small purple dragon looked at the Zarkonian and opened his mouth. The sound that came out was not as loud as before, but it was aimed right at the leader. The Zarkonian let go of Jack and fell back, its antennas shaking wildly. Jack jumped into the pod and closed the door. "Thank you," he said to Violet, who made a happy chirping sound. Now Jack faced the controls. There were many buttons and screens with strange writing. "I don't know how to fly this thing," he admitted. "We help," Midnight thought. The big black dragon came forward. In Jack's mind appeared images of which buttons to press. The dragons had watched the Zarkonians fly smaller ships from their prison. They remembered everything. Jack pressed the buttons in the right order. The pod hummed to life. More buttons, and it detached from the ship. "Hold on," Jack said as he pressed the last button. The pod shot away from the Zarkonian ship with great speed. Through a small window, Jack could see the alien ship getting smaller behind them. "We did it," he said with a smile. "We escaped." The dragons made happy sounds. Violet jumped around the small space. Pearl and Sky rubbed their heads together. Moss and Penny flapped their wings as much as they could in the tight space. Ember's scales glowed bright with joy. Midnight looked at Jack with pride in his yellow eyes. "Where do we go now?" Jack asked. Midnight came to the controls again. He helped Jack set a course. "First, Earth," the big dragon thought. "Take you ... home. And then to your home? To Craxes?" "Yes, you come. With us? See our world?" Jack thought about his life on Earth, his empty house, his quiet job. The reptile center was the only place he had felt needed. But now he had 7 friends who truly needed him, who understood him. "Yes," Jack said, "I'll come with you. I want to see your world." The dragons were happy. They all sent warm feelings into Jack's mind. As the pod flew through space, Jack looked at his new family. A human and 7 dragons heading home, not what anyone would expect. Especially not the Zarkonians, who had thought dragons and humans were enemies. "They were wrong about us," Jack said, patting Violet's head. "So wrong." In the weeks that followed, the pod traveled first to Earth. Jack said goodbye to his old life and left messages for the few people who would miss him. He took only his most important things, photos, some books, and special items from the Reptile Center. Then they set course for Craxes, the dragon world. It would be a long journey, but Jack didn't mind. He had all the time in the world to learn the dragons' language better, to hear their stories, to tell them about Earth. And when they finally reached Craxes, with its 3 moons and beautiful mountains, Jack knew he had found his true home. The first human to live among dragons. The first human to be part of their world. The Zarkonians had captured him and locked him up with dragons, thinking he would fight them or they would eat him. They never expected him to become their friend. They never expected him to escape with them. They never expected him to find a new home among the stars. They never expected Jack Howard, the quiet firefighter who was good with reptiles, to change everything.